with the fallout to Barcelona crashing out of the Champions League. This the press in Catalonia the following day. Ciao caput, victims of their own ineffectiveness. That was Mundo Deportivo. Sports say it was an unmitigated failure, a complete failure. And so you can see what the feeling is in Barcelona as we do welcome in Luis Garcia. So, Luis, how big a failure is it for Barcelona?
It's a big one, AK, to be honest. Definitely in Barcelona, they must be thinking that something went wrong at some point. They don't know where, because they thought that in the beginning of the season, when the levers start working, when they start signing top stars in the world, you bring Lewandowski, you bring Rafinha, you bring Christensen, Kessie, and things look like you are building a very strong team. But sometimes people forget that all those pieces need to work in perfect connection. All those pieces need to be in the right position. And at the end, if the ball doesn't go into the goal, you're going to be in trouble. And I think that's where everything starts going wrong. It looks very strong from the beginning in La Liga, but when you arrive to the big stages in a very tough group with Inter and Bayern Munich, you know that you're going to need an extra. And sometimes extra doesn't arrive. We've seen Lewandowski missing some chances in the first game. Then against Inter, something's happened we heard also sporting director of Barcelona with the referee. We are not going to get into that, but definitely something is missing there in Barcelona, and they are going to have to continue working. It was a transition moment, and they're going to need to continue working that process, because definitely it's not a team who can compete at the moment at the highest level.
I know you talked at length about this already, but they weren't asked to win the Champions League. They were asked to get to the knockout stages. Yes, it was a tough group, though. But 24 hours afterwards, where are you standing on it now?
Very much like the Catalan papers. It's a failure. And for Barcelona, given the decisions that they made in essentially sacrificing the future of the club or gambling the future of the club, because you were betting on this group of players to make a run in Champions League, to make a run in La Liga. And so when you have that financial component that goes alongside with the performance on the field, it puts an additional pressure on this team to be able to perform and to deliver. And the truth is that they haven't delivered. Now, while I agree with Luis that in La Liga they look good, what I would say is that they look good against teams that they're supposed to beat. When they have run into teams that are what we consider to be elite, what we consider to be important games, defining matches, season-defining matches, this group of players and this manager so far have come up short. They haven't been able to win enough of those games with any sort of consistency, and so therefore you have to ask questions of the players, of the managers, of the club, of the whole picture, because clearly and obviously, if you're Barcelona, you were betting on going through to the knockout stage and making a deep run in Champions League. That hasn't happened. Now you have to take a step back and say, okay, where do we go from here? What do we do from now? And how do we get to that point where we're once again successful in Europe? That hasn't happened in a while for Barcelona. It didn't happen in Champions League this year. Last year, it didn't happen in Europa League last year either. The questions remain, and until you start seeing big-time performances in big-time games, those questions will remain.
And you asked a question on the show yesterday, LA, saying has there been an improvement in this Barcelona side? Do you see an improvement, Luis, and who do you think is at fault for this exit?
No, I've seen an improvement, because I like some moments of this Barcelona. From the started of this season, you can see that it's not the same team like last year. It's more convincing. Normally at the 90% of the games, you can see there is a way of playing that is back, that the quality and the talent of the young players is there, something that it was missing for quite a long time. And that philosophy that everybody's asking about Barcelona is there. Yeah, said that, of course, we have to point the players, because they haven't been at the level or the standards of this Barcelona at the moment. We have to point Xavi, because he couldn't manage to use the puzzle or put the puzzle in the right position. We have to check on the board, because maybe they have bring players who were not at the moment at the idea of this Barcelona. We've seen players that haven't been at their best in this team. So at the end, when there is a failure, you have to point a lot of things, and a lot of things happening. But from that on, said that, the only way to take away something from this one is they are second in La Liga. They can win the Europa League. They can win the Cup. They can win the Super Cup. There are things to be won in this season. Of course, they need to continue working, but definitely Champions League is the main target. It was the main trophy, and they're not going to be there this season.
You know what was truly disappointing about yesterday's match against Bayern Munich, besides the fact that you lose the match, because that can happen, is the manner in which they lost. And the body language, the attitude in general of the group, the lack of competitive pride that you have 85,000 people in the stadium that have come to support you, even though they know that you've already been eliminated from the competition. It's something that we talked about yesterday. But that lack of competitive pride, that lack of fight, that lack of intensity, that lack of energy, that is at the very least is the one thing that you have to bring to a game that is essentially meaningless. You have to bring it. You have to generate it because you have a responsibility to those fans, but you also have a responsibility to yourself and to your teammates, to the club, to the whole picture of Barcelona. And yet this team just kind of went through the motions. That's concerning because it tells me something about the personality of the group that I don't like to see. And it also shows the difference between a team like Bayern Munich, elite level, and Barcelona right now. Bayern Munich had nothing to play for in this game. Nothing. And yet, professional enough to knock the ball around, and whenever they had opportunities, they put those chances away. They win the game. See you guys later. No drama, nothing to see here. Barcelona, all drama and a lot of questions.
Yeah, it's interesting to pick up on the competitiveness, the personality as you have, because when you look at their recent history against Bayern, and there's plenty of it, just going back to August 2020, look at this. The last 15 goals scored in a Barca-Bayern clash have been scored by Bayern, and the only time Barca actually scored was in that 8-2 loss to Bayern, which just says everything right now. So when you do talk about personality and competitiveness, Luis, are you looking at this being a big game problem for this side right now against Madrid, against Inter, against Bayern Munich?
Of course. There's when Barcelona needs to be at their best. There is where Barcelona needs to show we are Barcelona. And I think at the last game against Bayern, the big concern is you don't have one shot on target. That shows everything about Barcelona. It was a very tough week the week before, of course, losing against Inter, not getting the good result, losing against Barcelona, and arriving to the point that you know that you need to win and wait to see what happened in the other game. Everybody knew that they will not go to the knockout stage. They will drop to Europa League. But at least always you keep that hope. But definitely when you are playing and you receive the first goal from nowhere, you are controlling the game, you receive a goal, you are controlling, you receive the second one. Of course, you give up a little bit. When you are on the field, you can see that it's so difficult to face against one of the toughest teams, that is Bayern Munich, even though that they were, I think, 60% at that stage. If they needed something else, they will push and probably score more goals. But that's the big concern. If this Barcelona is ready to change their mentality, to change again the gear and bring those good moments that we've seen in La Liga, I think that they were not ready. Now they need to change again, change that mentality, and that's a lot of work for Xavi, because this team is with a lot. It's got a lot of youth, and when you are so many young players, they don't have the experience to understand that the situation cannot be shown in just 1 second. You need to work on it. You need to bring that momentum to this situation and try to keep it for quite a long period. And you got a World Cup in the middle. So there is a lot of things that they need to be worked from now on. And it's not going to be easy. If we think that now Barcelona can focus on La Liga, can focus on Copa del Rey or Europa League, that's not going to be easy, because in the end, they know that it's been a failure there. And every single time there is a tough game, the memory of that, the crowd is going to be pointing, listen, the goals from the past are coming back again, and you're not getting the results.
Because, Luis, you talk about those young players and you talk about the competitions that are still open to them, so that might go some way in helping them fix their mentality. But going back to the young players, is there a need to fix this team and bring some more experienced players in? What needs to be done to change it?
No, of course, it's important to have leaders. And I think we've been talking about leaders quite a few times in the past months, because there are teams, they lack of this. And we are talking, no, we don't need a leader that is raising the hand and pointing everybody and then coming to the media and say, listen, we need this or we need that. We need leaders on the field. Players who at certain moments during the games, they push and they decide and they have the ball. And we've seen it with Real Madrid. When the moments of trouble arrive, they keep the composure, and then Modric arrive and get the ball, and then Kroos arrive and get the ball and show that they leadership, they are leaders for the team. And we've seen it last year until now. They won the Champions League last year. They won La Liga because of these kind of players. Of course, Vinicius is gonna get the highlights, and Benzema because they're scoring goals. But at the end, those players in the tough moments, they are the ones, Courtois, who show up. They step forward and say, listen, we are here, we are going to have the ball, and we're going to control the situation. And at the moment, Barcelona doesn't have these kind of players anymore. Busquets is one of the leaders, but he's surrounded by a lot of youth, a lot of players who arrive, who doesn't understand what is the philosophy and to wear the jersey of Barcelona, and that's very difficult to have. We had Puyol in the past, we had Iniesta, we had Xavi, we had Messi, we had so many players who, in the tough moments, they arrive and have the ball. Now, I see a little bit of lack of this leadership.
Lack of leadership on the pitch?
Well, if that's indeed the case, right, Xavi has made the decision that Piqué is not going to be involved, that Jordi Alba is not going to be involved. Whether you agree with those decisions or not, those are decisions that have been made. But when you think of potential leaders on the field for Barcelona, and you look down the bench, you go, oh, Gerard Piqué's over there, and Jordi Alba's over there. Those used to be leaders on the field for Barcelona, and they're now sitting comfortably on the bench, and they're not getting off the bench. And so you're not just going to manufacture leadership. That comes, yes, with experience. That comes with success as well. That comes with trust, players that you know you can rely upon. And I go back to yesterday's game. And if Barcelona is looking for an example as to what a leader can look like for them, look at Joshua Kimmich for Bayern Munich. And that kind of player. Not necessarily a guy that is yelling and screaming all over the place, but you know that he's keeping a sense of structure and organization to this team. And when there's a moment to push the team forward, he pushes the team forward. When we got to drop off, he brings the team back. There is a structure and a consistency that comes with a player like that Barcelona doesn't quite have. And part of the reason is you would think it would be Busquets. But Busquets knows that he right now is 1 foot on the field, 1 foot off the field. And so do the players around him. Is this guy going to play next game? He's not, he himself, not sure whether he is part of the future for Barcelona. As good a player as he's been for this club. Because Xavi has been given the signals, the signs that it may be coming to an end, just like it came to an end to that guy in Piqué and to that guy in Jordi Alba. So how can you be a leader when you yourself, you don't know yourself if you're going to be on the field and if you're going to be able to lead this team from here on out? That's a difficult position to be. And so you look around and you say, Dembele, no, not a leader. Lewandowski, yeah, he can lead from the front, but not quite his personality. Then you look around and say, well, Gavi, yeah, he fights and pushes and brings energy, but does he have the experience to be a leader? Not quite. Pedri doesn't seem to have that in his makeup. So, I mean, you look at the names and you look at the players and you ask, where's the leadership coming from? Good luck. It's not on the field right now.
Just talking about trust as well, and I want to go to one of the young players. I want to talk about Ansu Fati, Luis. Do you think Xavi trusts him? Because we're not seeing him as much as maybe we would have expected to. Do you think it comes down to a trust issue with him, why we're not seeing him more?
No, to be honest, I'm not inside the dressing room, and I don't know if Xavi trusts him or not. I think that yes. I think that we've seen that Ansu Fati is going to be a very important player for Barcelona. What I see from outside, and is my humble opinion, is that Ansu Fati at the moment is not at the level that we are expecting him to be. I've seen him play for 30 minutes. I've seen him play for 45 minutes. And I can see Ansu Fati that is sharp in short distances. I see Ansu Fati that is able to beat one player, that in certain moments when he's close the box, it can be very difficult to mark because he's got that sharpness in 1-2 meters. But when we are talking about the Ansu Fati we saw 2 years ago before the injury, is not that player yet. That speed, that power on a 50 meters run, that beating players or 1-2 players at the same time, arriving from outside the box and try luck. I think that is for a long periods. I'm not talking for 10, 15, 20 minutes. I'm talking about long periods. I think that is not there yet. That's why I think that Xavi is trying to give him time to get that level of fitness. When you go Rafinha, when you go Ferran Torres, that finally we can see again Ferran Torres that we all know with power, with speed, with that intensity for long periods, long distances. That's what I'm talking. Oh, Dembele, Ansu Fati is not at that level yet. That's why he's been introduced for certain minutes. It will arrive the point where he will become the top player that we all want to be. But I think that at the moment, physically, he's not there yet to play 90 minutes or 70 minutes.
Are they?
Ansu Fati is an interesting case because when he came on to Barcelona and he showed those flashes that people just kind of went crazy about Ansu Fati and what the future could be for this player. Then he has the injuries, and now he's sort of coming back very slowly, deliberately from the injuries, not involved with the Spanish national team. And you kind of feel, well, is the momentum all gone? And you see some of the flashes again, but you don't see consistency. And that, I think, is very obvious across the board in Barcelona in the attacking half. You see flashes, but you don't see consistency. You see flashes from Dembele, probably brighter than some others in terms of what he can do, but no consistency. Rafinha, same thing. Now, his flashes have dimmed quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. Lewandowski, you know he's going to score goals, so you know exactly what the package is for him. As for Ansu Fati, what you see from him is he comes off the bench, and he comes in moments in which he can make a difference, and he's expected to make a difference. Gets involved in a couple of plays, looks good, and now you think, well, maybe he's ready. Maybe he's ready to start a game. Then he starts the next match, and you're like, maybe he's not ready. And until he shows that he can produce over a long period of time with consistency, which is the same questions that I have for Rafinha, and the same questions that I have for Dembele, and the same questions that I have for Ferran Torres. Until they can prove that they can deliver with consistency, Xavi is gonna. This is why rotations are happening. If he could trust all these players to do a particular job, they would be on the field. If he could trust that Dembele could do a certain job, that Rafinha could do a certain job, that Ansu Fati could do a certain job, that he's going to score goals, that guy is going to score goals, there wouldn't be rotations. These guys would be on the field playing in the most important games. And in the most important games, it's been a whole lot of rotation because he's still trying to figure out the answers.
We asked Ale yesterday, Luis, if all would be forgiven if Barcelona do go on to win La Liga. Do you think that would be the case? It would be forgiven crashing out in the Champions League again?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, football has no memory at all. And the same thing that we cannot remember the good years of Barcelona and Messi is just a slightly memory right there on the back of our head. Everybody will forget that Barcelona didn't go through in Champions League. La Liga is a very important competition, and La Liga gives you a lot of what Barcelona needs. First of all, the consistency. If you win La Liga, that means that you've been for a whole season doing well. Of course, Champions League is special, but a long season is always a very special trophy. Second of all, is that Barcelona is back. It will be at the top of the La Liga. You will receive money. You will receive economically a fantastic amount of money that will help you to continue rebuilding this team. And that's something I think that for Barcelona is also very important. So at the end, yeah, everybody will forget.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.